And we'll have much more of that to continue on over the next few months. So definitely stay tuned, and please help spread the message that we are offering this webinar each month, and that they are recorded. And I will make sure to post the link in the chat of where you can find previous recordings as well. So to get us started, we are going to turn it over to Kat Pappenbrock from OEDIT to talk about several sources of economic development funding that are available.
Great, Shale, thanks so much. And thank you all for having me here today. My name is Kat Pappenbrock, and within OEDIT, I'm the director of the Rural Opportunity Office, which is one of 11 divisions that kind of supports the entire Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade. So just a quick overview before I kind of jump into our programs. Our mission really is to empower all to thrive in Colorado's economy. We really do that through public-private approaches for economic development activities, strengthening regional economies, doing data analysis, of course, supporting entrepreneurs and small businesses, and increasing quality job creation. So next slide. So OEDIT's programs kind of fall into, oh, sorry, I can do that myself, I think, maybe. But OEDIT's programs generally fall into two categories. So first is small business support through technical assistance and grants. You might be familiar with the Small Business Development Center network, access to capital through loans, credit enhancement, sometimes grant programs and venture capital, and then, of course, incentives for job growth and strategic business recruitment to the state. Community support, which is kind of what we're going to be focusing on today, is primarily through strategic technical assistance, state and federal strategic partnerships, and some grant opportunities. And the link at the bottom will take you to our slate of programs, which I think with all the federal funding has grown to about 170, but I wanted to highlight 3 new ones or new-ish ones today. So next slide, please. This is just kind of the overview, just in case. I know OEDIT can be pretty complex, but just for your reference, when you do get the slide deck, it can kind of show you the various offices and who the kind of chief folks are. But on the programs that I'll mention today, you will also have everybody who is the program director information. So let's get started. So hot off the presses and approved by our Economic Development Commission is a program that's opening this Friday, and we're calling it the Community Business Preservation Program. Next slide. So this program really provides grants as well as training and support to groups of geographically linked and culturally similar businesses that might be facing displacement pressures or other major issues. But for the communities that they're in, they have a cultural, social, or historical significance to either the community or to Colorado. So it's really intended to help our Colorado communities preserve those businesses that make them unique and are important to their residents. So let's get into the details a little bit more. Next slide. So the way that this program is structured is that it will actually provide grants of $10,000 to $50,000 per business in a selected community, as well as training and consultation support tailored to each business's unique needs. You do need to have a local jurisdiction or a local economic development nonprofit lead on this, and have a group of 2 to 6 businesses that are important to your community who are interested in this type of programming. Some of the unique things that hopefully will make this a little bit more accessible to our communities is that the program opens, of course, on Friday, closes in January, so we have a nice long timeline. There is no match required. Your implementation timeline is anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And in this case, it's not a reimbursement grant. The grant funds are actually awarded to your applicant entity upfront with reporting requirements throughout. Next slide. So what we're planning on doing, total awards, we're looking at about 5 to 7 Main Street districts, corridors, or geographically proximate groups of businesses. Of course, as I mentioned, 2 to 6 businesses in each community. There again is that eligible applicant and the key criteria that we went through earlier. Some of the interesting examples, if we want to pop over to the next slide, of the types of proposed uses. I mean, of course, it could be expansion of business, but if you remember the Main Street Open for Business program, this could be used for things like facade and building infrastructure improvements, energy efficiency, hired contract work. So some of the examples of communities that, might be poised for this would be, a small community like San Luis in the San Luis Valley, where they have some historically, I mean, they've got the oldest operating business in the state of Colorado that is also looking for transition planning and needs some major infrastructure projects. And then they have 3 or 4 other businesses that are key to the community, but may not have the resources that they need to move forward. Another one, closer in the Denver area might be the Welton Street corridor, where, kind of historically minority-owned businesses are facing displacement because of, development and gentrification pressures. So we're trying to keep it really broad. I'm really excited to see what our communities come up with. Okay, next program is Opportunity Now. And this is our large-scale workforce program. Thank you. Of course, it came out of House Bill 22-1350. And the goals, there's a total of $85 million across this program that's going to be launched in 3 phases. And it's really meant to help our statewide or even regional workforce develop. Yes, it has a COVID pandemic recovery need, but really it's to create those intentional pathways between education and private employers that allow students and existing workers to transition in and out of these systems. So ultimately, ensuring a higher skilled and educated workforce, and then really providing opportunities for regional students to find jobs within their communities, in demand, high skill, high wage. It's a pretty complex program, so I just wanted to give this visual example of how these partnerships work. This is really meant to be a collaboration between industry and education linked by a centralized applicant. So on the industry side, you have your public sector who's an employer, your small businesses, maybe corporations, and then education could be workforce centers, K through 12 education or higher education, universities, colleges, and community colleges. Next slide. So to get to a good application, there are 3 strong components, which is identifying and understanding what your workforce problem is, what you're trying to respond to. Really build out your partner network, who is really leading in your region from either the private industry or workforce education side. The solutions should be private industry driven so that we can ensure long-term jobs into the future. And then, of course, either building on a proven solution, so something that might already be working really well, but you want to move it to the next stage, or something that's innovative, something that you developed a need for, but hasn't been developed yet. So let's go to kind of the overview of the program. So the way that this phase 2 breaks out is into 3 different types of grants. You could have planning grants, seed grants, and scale grants. And there you can see where the grant terms are and the types of awards that are made available in each of these phases. I put a link to phase 1 awards and project examples, but I wanted to highlight 3 out of each one, since sometimes it's nice to have an example of how this works. So on the planning side, the one that I wanted to highlight was the Campo School District. So they put a partnership together with the school district, the Vila School District, University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and Lamar Community College. Their grant award was just under $50,000. And, they're looking at 6 towns in Baca County that really want to make sure that their youth has opportunities to stay in Baca County and find employment, whether that's in existing small businesses, or new entrepreneurial and industry solutions. So they're just at the ground phase of this. So this is going to help them get kicked off on this. Under the seed funding, the example that I'm going to give here is the Colorado BOCES, the Bureau of Cooperative Educational Services, who partnered with the Association of General Contractors of Colorado, Careers in Construction, Colorado River BOCES, and the Roaring Fork School District. And they ended up getting a $1.5 million award to really move forward on their workforce training program specific to construction trades, as well as affordable housing to be developed in that Colorado River Valley. So this is a largely rural area, just like Campo prior, that really has a need for housing, a need for skilled services as well. And then under the scale grants, which is of course advancing a really strong program, would be the Western States College of Construction that partnered with Rocky Mountain Mechanical Contractors, Sheet Metal and Air Conditioning, and Denver Public Schools to really build out from an equity and diversity-based level trade skills and apprenticeship and then workforce placement programs for high school programs, moving them into skilled trades. And that total award for them over the course of the next 12 to 32 months was $3.3 million. So some really great opportunities there. On the next slide, we can just kind of see the overview of the program with the key dates. Of course, right now we're in that request for application process. These are due October 19th, so there's still some time if you wanted to check in with your regional folks to see if anybody's thinking about this. And then, award notification in mid-January and start of projects in early April. If you're not ready yet, they are planning to do another phase 3 in the summer of 2024. So just keep this one in your back pocket. And again, because it is a complex program, if we want to pop to the next slide, there are a lot of technical assistance opportunities available. They've really built out the website with a strong application guide, a step-by-step for, a request for application, various learning events, and then of course, the FAQs and a mailing list to be notified of program updates or even future opportunities. Okay. And then number 3, we're going to go small scale and talk about one of our rural programs that's open now, which is the Rural Technical Assistance Program and our TAP mini grants. This one comes directly through my office, and Karen Wainscott is our program manager and expert on this. Next slide, please. So this program is really designed to be a multifaceted economic development education, outreach, and then implementation program for our rural Colorado communities. So there's a free educational component on key economic development issues that's open to everybody. Some of the future programs will have some competitive technical assistance and consulting programs to follow up on some of the ideas that you might have developed after going through an educational component. And then if you're successful in that, some implementation funding to move it forward. So next slide, I think just kind of repeats a little bit of what we've done, but what we're currently really focusing on is what we're calling RTAP Foundations. And this is really designed for our communities to understand OEDIT, all of our various economic development state partners, and just what economic development means. It's really meant not just for your local economic development expert, whether that's a chamber director or somebody in your city or county. It's meant, yes, as education for them, but mostly as a baseline education for them to partner with a local elected official and somebody else that works within the city or county, so that as you're planning and moving forward, you all start on the same page. So in addition to foundations, we also have some modules about Main Street, Film in Colorado, and a rural data dashboard, which helps you understand the numbers of another service that we provide. But if you complete the RTAP Foundations program, next slide, you are available for a mini grant. So again, you need those 3 locals to go through this core programming. And once you've completed that, there's a super short grant application, which allows you a one-time implementation award of $2,500 to put toward any economic development strategy or project that may have sparked for you during the learning process. We review those applications weekly as they come in and really try to make it pretty simple to access those. So next slide just gives you a sense of some of the allowable uses, job creation and retention, capacity building, economic resilience, entrepreneurial ecosystems, using this maybe as matching funds for another economic development project. And then, of course, our eligibility requirements of what constitutes rural. But some of the cool examples that we've gotten out of recent mini grants is, I know Northwest Colorado is planning on taking the $2,500 and using that toward matching and additional funding for a regional economic development website that they are planning. Julesburg is planning on building out a small business services center, and they just needed some money to buy some equipment, some computers that both their executive director and local businesses can access. So they were able to do that. Another community is thinking of putting the $2,500 into a local entrepreneurship challenge, where they basically have a pitch event and make small sub-grant awards to their local businesses. So be creative. We're really excited to hear what our communities come up with, and just keep us posted if you have any great ideas. And then last, I just wanted to spend a couple minutes, most of the ones that I discussed earlier are really available to the majority of our communities and our local government partners. But there are a couple of other special funding sources within either OEDIT and some of our outside partners that I wanted to highlight just to make you aware of them. So for those of you that might be in just transition communities, these are communities that are, over the next 10 to 15 years transitioning out of the coal-fired power generation industry. There are community funding opportunities that are shared between OEDIT and the Office of Just Transition. Rural roadmaps, those of you primarily, of course, in rural Colorado that were part of our 16 regional roadmap teams with that collaborative grant effort between OEDIT and DOLA. We do have our implementation funding for those finally open, so feel free to reach out. And again, on all of these, if you want more information, they're all pretty complex and have specific requirements, you can reach out directly to me and I'll be happy to kind of guide you in. There's a large scale pilot program through the Economic Development Administration that is also focused on workforce, but specifically for our underemployed and employment distressed communities. So there are some geographic requirements for that. I know that we have one really, really strong regional application coming in that covers most of the Eastern Plains, southeastern Colorado, and southern Colorado that's being led by the South Central Economic Development District. So if you'd like more information about that or just more about EDA and how to kind of maybe come into those, that application for phase 1 is coming up on October 5th. So they've been working hard on that, but we just want to make sure that we do our partnership connections. Of course, we know housing is always on the docket. So our Innovative Housing Incentive Program, which is really built for innovative housing manufacturers, continues to be open. And that has a couple of different pathways from, kind of innovation grants all the way up to loans, grant funding, and then per unit incentives for actually manufacturing innovative housing within the state of Colorado. And then the last one, of course, I know we've talked about workforce, but of course, we all know that our small businesses are the foundations of so many things that we do in economic development in Colorado. And I wanted to just kind of highlight the Business Foundation's Technical Assistance Program, which just opened its last and final grant round. And these might be for your entrepreneurs in your communities that might just be getting started or maybe have been kind of working, not necessarily off the books, but maybe, need some help getting fully legally registered with the state of Colorado or setting up a baseline accounting system, understanding what a profit and loss statement is. This is a really great online learning program where they can move at their own pace and then have additional technical assistance through the Small Business Development Center network, as well as the potential for an implementation grant at the end of it. So I am going to stop there. I think I've talked long enough and look forward to any questions and answers. I know that was a lot, but I think as I was walking the chat on the side, the presentation will be available and all of the links are live to the programs. So thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Kat. And yes, as Kat mentioned, we will be taking questions at the end. So feel free to add those into the chat or use the Q&A feature. But in the meantime, we will turn it over to Mickey Davis from the Colorado Department of Agriculture to talk about a really neat program.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say, Kat, wow, what a great presentation. Just going to follow up with outlining one specific grant program through the Department of Agriculture called the Small Food Business Recovery and Resiliency Grant. And the idea behind this grant is to increase access to or lower prices for healthy food in low income and underserved areas of the state. So just to kind of bring this home, if you know of a neighborhood in your county where folks might have to take 2 buses to get to a supermarket, or a rural area where there's no grocery store for miles, this grant program is designed to support existing small food businesses so that access can be expanded. Next slide. So who's eligible for this grant? Small food retailers, so that's small grocery stores, carnicerias, general stores, even farmers markets and farm stands are eligible for this grant fund. and small family farms, and those are defined as farms with a gross revenue under $350,000. And eligible uses for the grant include equipment expenses like refrigeration units, display shelving, even refrigerated trucks. Thinking about those small family farms and how they can help expand access. Point of sales machines that are, oh, sorry, do you mind going back? Point of sales machines that are SNAP and WIC compatible are also explicitly called out as eligible, and some operating expenses associated with installation or maintaining this healthy food expansion. Okay, next slide. So to paint a picture, if there is a small corner store in a low-income neighborhood that doesn't offer fresh food, they could use this grant to purchase a cooler so that they could start offering fresh produce, for example. Another example might be a farm stand that's in a rural area that represents the only place to buy food for miles. Could use this grant to buy some more display shelving, a new point of sale machine that's SNAP compatible, and maybe hire a part-time staff to expand the hours of their operation. That would be a great example of how these funds would be used to expand access. And then for a farmer, they could purchase equipment to extend their growing season and expand the amount of crops they can grow, and then use this grant to purchase refrigerated trucks that are devoted to delivering products to retailers in low-income and underserved areas. Okay, so some specifics here. The maximum grant award is $50,000 per business per year. We do expect to have one round of grants opening up now, next week actually, and then a second in the early months of 2024. But these grant funds are ARPA dollars, so SLFRF funds. So we've got to encumber all of these funds before the end of 2024. So we're going to be looking to rapidly roll out these two rounds of grants in the next 6 months. The most challenging part we've worked really hard to make this a really straightforward application. Likely the most challenging element of the application will be the sort of forecasting on the applicants and to determine roughly how much this would expand access. So whether that's through increased purchasing capacity, sales capacity, or distribution capacity. And then once those grant funds are expended, we're lucky to continue this kind of support through a tax credit program in 2024 through 2030. So I may ask to come back to talk about that at a future meeting, but just wanted to put it there. Next slide. So some questions that come up a lot related to this program. What areas are eligible? What's a low income, low access area? You can find some maps on our website that outline which areas are the priority areas in the state using the latest data we've got. But grocery stores in any part of the state are able to build a case explaining how they will be reaching a low income, low access population, even if their business is not explicitly in an eligible area on our maps. So this is all outlined in great detail on our website. Another question that comes up a lot is, what is healthy food? Is that just fresh fruits and vegetables? we, as a program, decided to leave that up to the community to let us know, what foods were in the highest demand in their community and what kind of expansion was required in their community. So it's a pretty broad definition of healthy food. A lot of folks ask if food pantries are able to apply for this grant, restaurants, food trucks. No, this grant is just to support the expansion of the retail sale of healthy food. So not prepared meals and not charitable, not the charitable food distribution network. Other questions that come up a lot, we will be requiring businesses to provide supporting documentation, proving their eligibility, but we're going to request that after applications have been approved for award. So that streamlines the application process. And this is an upfront award, not on a reimbursement basis. So another element of this program that we're really fortunate to have is the ability to partner with some local organizations that can help us provide technical assistance and spread the word, and help these small businesses fill out their application and comply with our reporting requirements. So we're in the final stages of signing contracts with groups in these 3 regions. So if you're thinking of maybe an eligible business in one of these regions, these folks are here to offer technical assistance and support. We are also obviously, here to spread the word as well and support in any way we can. And we have Spanish fluent program staff to support Spanish monolingual applicants. That's all for me. Love to hear any questions, comments, feedback, and excited to see some applications coming through. Our grant program will open next Wednesday, and the first round of applications are due on November 7th. So thank you so much.
Great, thank you, Mickey. Great presentation. Really appreciate those updates. So let's go now to questions and answers. And again, Shell will be facilitating those. If you might have come in through the chat, I saw some activity, but if you have particular questions for any of the presenters, including myself, please come off mute and just identify yourself and ask your question.
Great, thank you so much, Rick. So we got a couple questions in the chat here. And as we go through these again, if you want to use the Q&A feature, or if you raise your hand, if you want to ask your question verbally, we can unmute you so you can ask your question. But starting with some of the questions that were in the chat, the first question is just around where folks can find this presentation as well as previous presentations. We will always post those in an email following this call, so make sure you are registered for this call moving forward so that you can be on our distribution list to get those follow-up emails. We also post them to the Colorado Resiliency Office website, which I have posted in the chat, under the Pathways to Recovery and Resiliency Funding link area. So if you look in the navigation on the left-hand side on that page, you'll be able to find all of those in one place. The next question, and I believe this one was answered, but I just wanted to double check myself. But the question was, what was the previous program spoken between education and business during Kat's presentation? And I believe that was Opportunity Now, but is that correct, Kat? Can you check me on that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That was the Opportunity Now program.
Okay, perfect. And then the next question, so Crested Buttes grocery store has closed for 4 months for renovation. There is a small health food store in the community. Would a Ski Town grocery, either one, qualify given the workforce in the valley is generally low to moderate income? I believe this question was answered live, but if there's anything else you wanted to clarify, Mickey.
I'd love to clarify. Thanks for that question, Colleen. So one point of clarification, for small food retailers, they've got to be independently owned. So if the grocery store is, you know, a Kroger or a Safeway, they would not be eligible for this grant. And then, you know, it would be a matter of checking our website, seeing if Crested Butte is in that automatically eligible zone. And if not, the retailer could still apply. They would just need to provide some supporting data showing the need for supporting the need for expanded access to a low income, low access population.
Great, thank you, Mickey. And Colleen, we do see your hand is raised, so you are able to unmute yourself if you have another question.
No, I just wanted to say thank you. And I believe it's an independent store. But right now in our valley, everyone is taking the bus down from Crested Butte to our City Market and Safeway. And there is a health food store up there as well, a very small one, a great store. But I was just going to shoot this note off to Crested Butte's to the sustainability coordinator at the town and just say, you know, these two grocery stores, they serve 26 miles away. And I think that they should look at this, especially in the middle of trying to expand their services in the next 4 months. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to mute because somebody's at my door. But thank you. That's exactly what I wanted to know. And I will check with you and see where they fall in the eligibility system as well.
Thanks, Colleen. I appreciate that.
Great. Well, I am not seeing any other questions in the chat or on our Q&A. So I think we will go ahead and turn it back over to Rick.
Yeah, thanks. Again, thanks to Kat and Mickey for those great update presentations. Very valuable information, a lot coming the way towards local government support grants, as well as other types of activities, both for nonprofit, local governments, private sector opportunities, higher education, K-12, etc. A lot going on. Hopefully you're finding these local government coordination calls and the Resiliency and Recovery webinar series beneficial. We still have roughly 70 to 80 individual participants on these calls, which we started way back in the the beginning of the COVID-19 period. So please give us the feedback. There are surveys done periodically by our DLG team and staff on what you think about these and the topics of interest. So it's always good to give time back. So I'm willing to do that. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you the third Wednesday of next month. And we are adjourned. Have a great, wonderful rest of the day.